I want to take a moment before we start to appreciate the new subscribers that came aboard. If you just joined the channel, I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. Um, Thanks. But today I wanted to clear up. I wanted to clear up the misconceptions about what ego is and our part in maintaining or not maintaining that. So to start, ego is your sense of self-identity. It's whatever you identify with, whatever you think of yourself is. I am X. That is your ego. If you identify as Caillou, I am Caillou. That is a part of my ego. That is my self-identity. And anything that follows that I am prefix is therefore a part of your ego. It's who you believe yourself to be. Now, many people misconstrue this idea as being something like arrogance. People like whenever you hear ego, oh, he's got an ego, you think, oh, he's arrogant. No, everybody has an ego. Literally, everybody has an ego. From the day you say, I am Caillou, or I am whoever you are, that is your ego. Ego in and of itself, is not necessarily a bad or a good thing. It's just a thing. It's a thing. It has no positive or negative qualities by itself. The confusion comes when we blame, when we talk down on ourselves for having an ego. Now, there's a difference between, ego and pride and arrogance, and that's what you want to avoid. That's I'm great, or I'm this, or I can do this better than anybody, or I'm better than. But the ego, which is your identity with your identification with self, the level to which you identify with your ego is what makes or breaks, the good or the bad. That's where the positive and the negative aspects come in at. Because we are egotistical to the degree that we identify with our ego. And again, our ego is our sense of self. So if we read it too much into the things that we describe ourselves as, say, I'm a writer, and my writing is the standard. My writing is the cream of the crop, and it's what should be measured. This is what measures other people's writing. Then that's egotistical, because we over-identify with our status as a writer. We put too much energy into, oh, I'm a writer. This is why this can be applied to a lot of religious ideas. Many people identify with their religion. Say you're a Christian. Okay, I'm a Christian. Everybody else should be a Christian. Or I'm a Christian and these are the beliefs that I hold, and I'm going to judge you by these same beliefs. That is ego in action. And by us identifying with being a Christian to the point where other people have to be Christian, that is over-identification with the ego, and that is not necessarily a good thing. So over-identification with the ego, that's where we get into trouble. It's not just, being arrogant. It's not just having lots of pride. Because you can have pride in your work. You can have, say you're a welder. You have pride in welding. But you don't bash others. You don't make fun of other people's work. You don't look at everything else from only your perspective. You don't look at other people's welding from just how you would do it. But you take great pride in your work. You put a lot of effort into what you do, and you want to show it all. That's pride. That can be a good or a bad thing in and of itself. But the focus, today is ego. So it can be You know, you can be overly prideful, and also be egotistical. But ego can also go the other way. We can over identify with being too weak, or being weak, or being I'm too soft, or I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, I'm blase skip. And this type of identification with the ego is also negative, but not in the way most people think. You know, when you have self when you have negative self-talk, you're over identifying with the part of your ego that thinks you're less than. You're giving energy to that part of you that feels like you can't or you shouldn't. And that's egotistical too, because now you're still focused overly on your sense of self, except the difference is that sense of self is telling you negative things. It's the same cup of tea, just a different strain, different herd. So the key is not to over identify with those things that we believe ourselves to be. Oh, I'm a writer, or I'm a black man, or I'm a human, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Buddhist, or I'm a Rastafarian, or I'm a cook. I cook a lot. I cook good food. I do these. I. When we can look at these things and not take them personally, and not make them a part of well, how can I phrase this? When we take these things in stride and just observe them as practice, observe them as just a part of life. When we detach ourselves from what we do, say, speak, hear, think, then we can start to get beyond that ego state. And this is for anybody. You don't have to be like egotistical per se, but this is for anybody who, you catch yourself over identifying with I'm this. You can, if it's detrimental to you, it's something you should think about changing, or something you should think about, just consider. But yeah, detachment. And the way to go about that is meditation, of course. I'm always going to meditate. Because that meditation is going to allow you to practice watching and not judging. It's going to allow you to practice observing the ego. You'll observe the thoughts that come up about yourself. And these thoughts are a direct reflection of your ego. These things reflect like, okay, I did this at work today. Oh, I'm this. If you can practice watching those things go by without reacting, without putting your own emphasis on it, without putting more thought into it, without giving it energy, then you can begin to scratch the surface of, people talk about enlightenment and getting, being awakened or whatever. It's whatever, but that's the idea of what those people are getting at. You get over these identifications with self. That's what they mean when they say, like, you are not your body, you are not your physical body, you're more than that. Basically that. To put it into words, it's something I learned, as I took up the Buddhist path. It's something I learned to live by. It's something like when I first started practicing, I go around and tell people, hey, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist. Yeah, I do Buddhism. Yeah, I believe in this. And one day we had a Dharma talk. It's like a talk about just Buddhist ideas and just Buddhist scriptures and whatever. And this time we were talking about practice, just living as a practice, Buddhism as a practice. And the abbot, he explained that Buddhism itself, is not a religion. These things, all these religions are not religions. When you look at it as religion, you give yourself something to attach to. But when you look at it as just a practice, a way of life, a way of living, just a set of disciplines, when you look at it as just, oh, this is something I do every morning, when I get up, like when you make your bed. I get up every day and I make my bed. I get up at 6:30, I get up and meditate. I get up and read the sutras. I get up and chant, or I get up and do whatever. When you look at it from this detached point of view, you really start to reap the benefits, because now it's not about what you are, who you are, who you are to others, your self-image. Now you're getting down to the nitty-gritty of what you're doing. You're focusing on the moment. You're focusing on doing what you set out to do. Thinking whatever you set out to think. You're fulfilling nothingness. And by fulfilling nothingness, I mean you identify with nothing, so you're free from judgment. You're free from judging others. You won't take it personal, because if somebody insults your identity, you won't take it personal because you're detached from, that idea. A lot of wars are going on because of egos, collective ego. Like with a lot of Muslim countries, a lot of people are killing other people because of their religion. People are getting killed because of their religion. I am this religion, so you can't be doing this, as this. Your religion is trash, or your religion is this. That's ego. That's over-identification with the ego. And that's leading to a lot of unnecessary death and unnecessary conflict. So, when you stop identifying with those things and just practice, live the way you live, if you cook, you ain't gotta, be like, hey, I'm a cook, y'all. I cook. I like to cook this. I cook Jamaican food. I cook this. And then somebody comes at you, be like, oh, you cook trash. You won't take it personal because it's not. You're not identifying with that anymore. That's not. It's who you are, but you're not over-identifying with it. You're not over-claiming it. You're not claiming it. You're not attached to it. So people can say what they want, and it'll just roll off you. Because inside, what you do. They're just projecting what's going on in their head, or whatever problems they got in their life. You don't worry about it. So yeah, don't over-identify with your ego, and don't compare. When you do start this work, the ego is gonna come up. It's gonna come up in a lot of ways, and you're gonna start to see it, and it's gonna come back full force. There are gonna be a lot of ego thoughts that come back as you try to detach from these things. There's gonna be a lot of pushback. Others are gonna trigger. Other people are gonna say things that might trigger your ego. It might trigger that response, and you've got to stay in the moment. You got to try to catch it. It's going to be hard sometimes, but try your best to catch it when it comes up, before it comes out of your mouth, or before it becomes influential to your actions. Just try to catch it. And when you do, remember it. Like, write it down or something if you got time or paper, but make a mental note and be like, okay, that's the ego thought. And just let it be. Let it go. Go about your day. Don't let it go no further than what comes up. And things will come up. You'll have thoughts. You'll have these thoughts like, oh, I'm this. And you'll be like, oh, no, just chill. You just tell yourself to chill. All right, cool. Okay. And things will work themselves out, Things will work themselves out. I'm still on the journey. It's a lifelong thing. It's not just a one and done issue. It's a lifelong thing. Like Kung Fu, it's lifelong. You never stop learning. So, it's something to think about. Something to think about. Don't over-identify with yourself. Ego is not just arrogance, and it's not just pride. It can be more than that. It can be something different. But it's more than just that. Ego is the identification with yourself. It is whatever precedes I am. It's whatever comes after that. And the extent to which you identify with that, negative or positive, if self-negative self-talk or self-aggrandizement, whatever it is, try not to over-identify with it. That's it. You guys have a nice day. See ya.